It's good.
I'm Heather Zykowski, the babe with the power, and coming up next on WAYO LP Rochester is The Sound of Tomorrow, where we're going to be talking about water. We are here with a Fat Bear Week update. You know it's my favorite. Bead Nose, call me. I miss you, girl. Want to hear from you. Ross's favorite segment of Guess Who Died Now is going to be featured in this. We might be talking about hearing aids, and with any luck, we'll have lots and lots and lots of hot picks for you. But first,
Hey, Heather, what's... Oh, whoa.
what?
It's just... Your face.
What about my face?
Well, okay, there's like, I don't know, like a hole in it with teeth inside.
With teeth inside? Ross, that's just my smile.
Okay, I'm sorry. You're what?
Don't you know about smiling?
Okay, I know about smiling, yes, but I never thought I'd see you do it.
But Ross, you're always telling me to smile more. All the boys are always telling me to smile more.
Well, yeah, I mean, it sounded good.
But now you're not so sure?
Okay, it's just that it's so, like, wide. And, like, the way your eyes are all, they're kind of menacing. Even when you're smiling, it's really, like, it's a lot.
Well, this is the new me, as requested. I'm sorry, but there's no going back now.
I'm sorry, it's just, I can't with all the teeth. I mean, it's so much teeth you have.
Come here, Ross. Let me smile closer.
What? No, get away.
I just want to smile. You're always telling me to smile more. Don't you want to look at my pretty smile?
Please, I'm so scared.
I'm not scared. I'm happy. Can't you tell by my smile? Ross, wake up, wake up. You were having a bad dream.
Oh my gosh. More like a nightmare. Oh my gosh, it was so terrible. There was so much just teeth.
Oh, sweetie. Sounds like too many scary movies. Here, let me just turn on the light.
Ah!
Why are you screaming?
God, you just look so grumpy. Why don't you smile once in a while? Oh my God. God, yeah, your grunting does not help. With your demeanor. God, why do you not have a boyfriend? Increases your face value, you know?
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, I'm Ross Johnson, your favorite co-host.
And I'm Heather Zykowski, the babe with the power. You're listening to The Sound of Tomorrow on WAYO LP Rochester.
That's my smiling girl.
That's right. I'm here. You know, it was funny that you wrote that skit because obviously I've been told many times in my life that I should smile more.
Yeah.
And that has led to a certain amount of developing a ghastly smile that makes men sorry they asked.
So it's a true story.
I'm going to say this really breaks down along like it's women who get told to smile.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of women have developed some kind of strange, aggressive, serrated smile for like, well, you'd be so pretty if you smiled. And then it's just like, nah.
You know, I'm guilty of telling people of any gender to smile on Jeopardy.
Really?
Yeah. I have a the thing we watch because we're elderly, we watch Jeopardy every night, right? So
yes.
I and I have given myself license to feel anything I want about the people on Jeopardy, which is usually not it's not like it's never hateful. But it's sort of like if somebody's wearing something stupid, I give myself a complete license to be like, that is a stupid outfit to wear on TV.
And I feel like that's the way to do it because these people will never, ever know what you said to your husband in the privacy of your own home. So you can vent that spleen and the people toward whom you're venting it, they'll never know.
And it's not that negative. And like I grade, you know how they do the little anecdote, the little story about themselves at the beginning. Like I grade those very, very like with a strong, strong constructive. You know, I'll be like, oh, okay, so you have a job. That's a great anecdote. Okay, let's move on. You know, like so I've got very strong feelings. So I do catch myself going like of, and again, this is completely across. This cuts across genders of anyone who's been on Jeopardy, but I will be like, you're on TV. You could stop scowling right now. You could actually smile a little bit. You could just, but
But
they're on TV. You know, I mean,
yeah,
like, and also I'm not tweeting it at them.
well, I
This is
mean,
in my living room. So,
yeah, most definitely. But Jeopardy is a pretty serious game. Like if someone were just smiling all through it, wouldn't you worry? Like, hey, aren't you struggling with this at all?
no, but this is during like the intros and stuff. You know,
Oh, and
sometimes
they're
people are
just like
like,
sitting there with,
yeah, they're just scowling. And I'm like, okay, you're on TV. Yeah, this
yeah,
is not like a trivia thing at your pub. You know, this is like,
right.
you're on
And
TV.
I suppose
There are certain
that,
expectations.
while your fellow contestants are doing their little anecdotes about their pets and their grandchildren, you could be feigning interest.
Right, right, right. Yeah. So if anyone ever wants to, maybe I'll start a podcast where I just record my impressions of people on Jeopardy every
That would be
night.
awesome. I think people would listen to that.
I
You
think so
could,
too. But then it would be like, then it would be, see, then I would start, then I
yeah,
it would either become extremely hateful or I would start censoring myself, in which case both, you know, in both scenarios, I wouldn't be pleased, you know?
that's an interesting thing because I'm pretty fond of this Drag Race recap podcast called Drag Her.
Hmm.
And it's really, really interesting to hear how they talk about the queens because there's a lot of awareness like these are actual human beings
Right.
who may hear us talking about them. And yet, like they're talking about the show, and of course the show is produced, so people have their characters and their roles that they're playing. And then like with outfit critiques and stuff, sometimes the outfit is just bad. And it's interesting to hear them navigate that line between like
Hmm.
being really cruel and simply being like, this is a reality show. We're just talking about, what happened on the television. We're not making any judgments on moral character or anything like that. It's just the outfit really looked bad.
Yeah. And that's kind of, I think that's kind of, I mean, I'm not saying I don't have entirely evil thoughts of which I'm terribly ashamed and hope no one would ever find out. Absolutely I do. But um also my brain sort of works that way, especially by the time it gets to my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm already sort of like, again, because I'm not like I'm not watching this like you are so stupid and ugly. I'll just be, I mean, the worst thing I'll do is somebody will be like doing their little introductory anecdote and I'll be like, okay, I lost interest 3 words in. I
Yeah.
don't know what is this is or oh, this would be great if it had a punch. This story would be great if it had a punchline. I mean, that kind of thing, which is like, I think in a way it feels constructive. I feel like I'm really, if I were to offer this advice to this unasked for advice to people,
Right.
it would probably be helpful.
I wonder if you could get yourself a job as like a Jeopardy anecdote punch up coach.
Yeah, I
You
think I
could,
could. I think
I
I'd be
don't
good
know,
at
like
that.
put yourself out on Fiverr or something. Like, I don't know
Yeah,
where you would get
like, I don't know.
clients for this.
Yeah, I don't know where. Yeah, like, oh, by the way, I'm going to Jeopardy, and I have you know, I have like 10 minutes to punch up my anecdote.
Right. Yeah. And so you just charge for a Zoom consult
Right.
and you sit there and the person does their thing. And then you could judge them in real time
Yeah.
with things, like, great, great, you have a job. No, I'm bored. I'm bored. I'm bored.
Bored. Bored.
Yeah. I think that sounds like a really good way to pick up some extra cash.
Yeah. Because there are categories. I've got a whole system. I've got a whole like, because there are the self-congratulatory ones of like, like they try to make it an anecdote, but it's really just about like something they do that's great, something they're, you know, something that's great about them. Like,
So, because I haven't watched Jeopardy in quite a while,
you're not old enough is the
yeah,
problem.
yeah, I'm apparently this is the one thing on the SAT that I'm too young for. Um, but so the anecdotes, I'm assuming it's like the personal, they come in and they say like, "Hi, I'm Heather. I have a job, and my deaf cat Nigel, he's my Pride and Joy. Here's a picture of him.
Yeah, like you're yeah, like I don't think you'd have a picture usually, but
I'd hold
you're
it up.
yeah, like your Deaf Cat Nigel. That like that could potentially be an anecdote. I would say it probably needs a little more. Like I would do if you were going to do your Deaf Cat
Yeah.
Nigel. I would think of a cute story about your Deaf Cat Nigel. That's quick because you have like 30 seconds, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, so they you come in and these are agreed upon. You know, I don't know exactly what the system is, but these anecdotes are sort of agreed upon before you get in, like what you're going to talk about, because the host will be like, you know, oh Heather, I understand you have a cat or whatever, you know, and
Yeah.
then you'll go, oh well, yes, you know, I do have a cat, because that's how you talk,
Yes,
and
that's how I talk.
you know, it, but then so the I'm not going to go into my whole thing with this, but
No,
I'm not
I
going to
mean
spend the whole show on
I'm
this.
very interested. I don't know if anybody else is, but I'm very interested in this. So
Well, because they always
I
tell
think
what
it's good.
people's jobs are.
Okay.
So it always seems like a waste of an anecdote when people's anecdote is like,
Okay.
"Oh, I'm a lawyer and I do this." You know, because I
Right.
feel like we already learned about your job.
Because they would introduce me as, and up next is Heather. Would they say my last name?
Yeah.
Is Heather Zykowski, an office worker from Rochester, New York.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so then if
So
I've said, like, hi, I'm Heather, I work in an office, it'd be like, yeah, we know. They just said it. Okay, gotcha.
yeah, that's already an anecdote. And if people come back, like if people come back, you can't criticize too much, you know. But then, like there was one guy who was like he watched Jeopardy with his grandma, and then a second one was like I really liked to watch Jeopardy with my you know, like so you need more than one. But yeah, you know, you want a good punchy first one because odds are you're probably only going to last the first episode. That's just
Yeah, me. Oh,
statistics.
please, me. Yeah, I'm a
No, but
Dumbo.
anybody. I mean, anybody. You know, it
Me in
takes
particular, though.
skill and luck. You know, so
I have neither.
but yeah, that's my so I'll say that's my number one thing. Like,
Okay.
don't waste your anecdote on telling people what your job is because they already told people that.
All
So it's sort
right.
of, you know, no one's gonna be rooting for you at that point.
That will
Every
immediately turn everyone completely against you.
everyone hates you
Yeah.
at this point right now. Or like, you know, and the other thing is like have a punchline with it. Like just don't like, you know, because some people they think sort of trail off.
Yeah, because I don't even know what my punchline would be.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, but like, oh, you know, and one time I have a deaf cat, and he one time he couldn't hear and was, you know, when he was stuck in the dryer, but we saved him. You know, I mean, I don't know. So like, ideally, you would have. So what I would do with you is you have Nigel, and I would try to remember a story or make one up. Who cares? Nobody cares. Nobody's checking this stuff. Nobody's vetting this. There's no fact checking here. You know, you find or you make you know you remember you make up a story that ideally, it would be a funny story about Nigel that ties into Nigel being deaf. Because if you introduce the concept of a deaf cat and then your story is just a cat story,
Yeah.
that's sort of disappointing. You know, that's a little disappointing. So I would say like something that happened because Nigel couldn't hear it.
Huh.
You know, that's tough. I know. That's
Yeah, that's
that's a tough
really
one,
tough.
but
Yeah, I don't know what that would be. See, mine was going to be but can you say that you practiced for Jeopardy? Or is that supposed to be a secret?
no, I think you can say you practiced for Jeopardy. Yeah.
So I could say that, like, Nigel saw me hitting my own practice buzzer so often that he started hitting it with his little paw.
Oh, that would be great. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's not like revelatory, you know. I mean, I
But it
think there
would
are two
still
categories.
it would be endearing, right? Because I would say, like, and I practiced enough to be on this show. I'm so excited. You know, I taught my deaf cat. He watched me pressing the button, and now he presses it with his little hand.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be good because I
Okay.
think there are two sort of main categories of ones that work, and they're either like endearing, like cute, endearing, or like truly tell you something about the person. You know, like if you can find a way, if it like you don't want to be too like humble braggy or too self-satisfied about it, but if you're like, oh, I was in the Peace Corps for 2 years doing this, like that's kind of a good one. That tells
Yeah.
you about the person. Or like cute and endearing. Like I always think a good one with me was like the thing and this isn't like a great one, but I always think like one I could use when I came back, when I'm back for day 3 or 4 would be my thing about how like whenever I travel, I collect Agatha Christie books. That's
See,
I could
that's a
work
good
that into
one.
a story
Yeah.
because it's like I like traveling. It sort of gets that in there. It
Mm-hmm.
fills multiple. I'm a reader. It fills multiple sort of functions.
Yeah.
So.
So that's bragging a lot. Like, you get to travel, you know how
Mhm.
to read.
but it's, but it doesn't sound braggy. It doesn't sound like, because you frame it as sort of like, oh, I'm a big dork because I just get these, but
Yeah.
so
That's fun.
so
So
I don't
when are
know.
you going to be on Jeopardy?
I don't know. I took the one time. So because I think I would like to be on Jeopardy. Actually, it would be
I
really
bet you'd be
stressful,
really
but
good. I would absolutely watch the heck out of Jeopardy with you on it.
thank you. I would absolutely be there for one show. But they
I don't
do
know.
this.
You're awfully smart and you watch Jeopardy a lot, so you know the system.
It's true. It's true. I think it's a lot of. I think that, like with anything, I think there's luck with it. I think there's a lot of luck with it. It's like who you're up against, because you know, like I am really good with something. If there's a sports category,
Right.
I'm also weirdly bad for as much as I'm into like world history and stuff like that. I'm weirdly bad with geography. Like I don't have, and I think it's like I don't have good spatial sense, so it's hard for me to picture where things are on a map. Like, so I sort of vaguely know where countries are, even though like I could tell you a lot about the country
Mm-hmm.
if you ask me. Like, you
Where
know,
is it? Like,
yeah, I can sort
over
of find
there?
like over there. Yeah, like even states, I'm like that.
Yeah.
So so it's a lot of what categories you get. Plus, like I think that this is the Jeopardy episode. We're talking about Jeopardy. Plus, like I think when people have like I think the buzzer is sort of is a skill because it's like your
Yes.
timing has to be very precise, and I think that's just and I think that's something I could be fine at. Like I don't have, my reflexes aren't terrible, but it's also like if someone's been there for 3 days already and you're
Mm-hmm.
coming in, like they've obviously had practice and you haven't. So that's tough to overcome too.
But that's why you practice at home.
Well, true, but I don't think you can like it seems like such a specific skill cuz there's a whole thing with the buzzer where like you have to get it like if you do it before if you do it too early like it locks you out for a second or something like that. And then and if you do it if you don't do it like right at the exact moment, then you're either going to get beaten by somebody else or you're going to get, you know, you're going to get locked out for a second and then beaten out by someone else. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
the timing of that's got to take
Right.
skill, like no matter how.
Well, that's why I taught Nigel to do it. I'd bring him with me
That's
and I'd
smart.
have him slap it.
That's that's a smart. And I think like if you I don't know. I mean, if you do you think that could be an accommodation? Like I have I have a medical diagnosis of very slow reflexes, so this is my
This is my
this is my buzzer assisting cat.
I think yeah, I think they would probably go for that. If I
Legally,
had
I think they'd have to.
and especially can you imagine if I really had trained my elderly deaf cat and he's sitting there and every time I'm ready to answer somehow he slaps the button and buzzes me in. I mean that would make for good TV.
They'd be fools. Yeah, they'd be
Yeah,
fools not to take you.
absolutely. Like
So,
that would be my gimmick. I'm not bright enough to get on Jeopardy. But if I had that gimmick, they would be like,
hmm
just to get the cat on TV. We don't care about the lady, but if we want the cat, we have to bring the lady. So here we
worth
go.
it.
Hmm.
Worth it. To answer your question before about when I'm going to be on. So, and then we'll move on from Jeopardy because nobody cares. Literally no one cares. Um, so they have a test, right?
Yeah.
So I'm so afraid to take it because you take it and then you have to wait for a year before you can
Oh
take it again.
no.
But then they had this like amnesty day
Oh my
where
gosh.
you can take like you could just take the test, like, and it wasn't gonna, if you had taken it before it was fine, if you wanted to take it after it was fine, right? So I was like, well, I should do it. I should do it, right.
Yes.
But it was like an hour before I had stuff to do. I had stuff to do in the afternoon. So I had like 40 I learned about it, and then at the time I learned about it I had like 40 minutes to do this. And it doesn't take 40 minutes, but that was the window of time I had in which to
Hmm.
prepare myself mentally. So it was like the end of the day. It was like late in the afternoon. I had stuff coming. I hadn't slept. There was construction going on outside. Ludovic and Ileana were barking at the construction. Um, Mike, for some reason, who I can never hear, but is in the office right below, who works right below me, was on like the loudest call I've ever
Yeah.
heard he's ever been on in my, I mean, seriously. And this is never the case, but I could hear every single word of like
Amazing.
everyone on this call. So
Wow.
I'm like, okay, I'm just doing this. So I took it. And then here's the thing. So here's the worst part of it. They don't tell you if you passed. They
Oh,
go,
no.
oh, we will contact you at some point within the next year. If you don't hear from us, don't worry about it. You didn't get in. So it's
Wow.
like, so I took it. I don't think I passed. I think, given the circumstances, I was perfectly happy with my performance. I would say I did like, I would say I did like 85% of what I needed to do to pass. Like I think I was short like one or two questions of what I would needed to pass. Um which is, I feel okay about. And I guess they're harder questions to sort of weed people out in
Right.
the
So is
thing.
it
So
just facts and trivia?
it's like Jeopardy questions, but you have to, I mean, you have to type them in. So it's not multiple choice. You have to like actually type in the answers.
Okay.
So it's also, I mean, it's general. I don't remember exactly what the questions were, but it was the kind of questions you would see on Jeopardy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, see, I would be pretty bad at Jeopardy because there's a lot of stuff like sports. Who won the 1947 World Series?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But then other categories like what was this famous movie? Who was the actor in this famous movie? I don't know. Music, I'd be maybe pretty
His,
bad.
history. I don't know. Music. I don't
Right.
know. Space, science. I don't know.
Potables,
The
I'd be
thing.
good at that one. Do they still
Yeah.
do that?
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right.
Occasionally they do. So that's the story of Jeopardy.
I know. Hey, I found it interesting. I used to watch, with my family because my parents, they were adults, still are, in fact.
Sure. Yeah. I like, I never watched regularly, but like as a teenager, as a kid, like you'd watch with your family, like that was the thing.
Yes.
And then, when Alex Trebek was ill, I was like, oh, let's watch Jeopardy. Like I feel like this is an era that's ending
Hmm.
that I think of fondly. And let's watch. So we sort of got into the habit of it, like in the last like month or so of Alex Trebek's life, and then we just kept going with it. And it's sort of fun. Like I feel like it's a little bit of a pick me up because I get sort of competitive with myself
Yeah.
about it. I mean, surprise, surprise to anybody who knows me that I would get
Hmm.
weirdly competitive about something stupid, but um, it's also I find it's an interesting like check in for me, like mentally, because um, I can sort of tell what kind of frame of mind I'm in by, I mean, obviously every question, you're not going to know every question and you're not going to be good at every category, but in the aggregate I can sort of tell, like, it sort of gives me a sense of where I am mentally, because there are sometimes I'm like, oh, these are things I know and my brain is not able, either because I'm too
Oh,
tired or
yes.
I'm depressed or whatever, like my brain
Right.
is not connecting on the answers. Like these are things that I should be able to tell you, but I
Oh,
can't,
yeah.
versus, oh, I'm really sharp. I'm getting all of these, and even some things that I wasn't sure I knew.
Hmm.
you
Yep.
know, it really. So and again, I don't know what that's good for, but it is sort of a nice little check in on a daily
Yeah.
basis. Like, is my brain working the way I feel like it should be?
I mean, I feel like that's just good because it's not great to be like self-absorbed, but I feel like it is good to be somewhat self-aware
Yeah.
and understand what's going on with yourself.
Right. Right. So that's kind of how it has worked for me a bit.
Wow.
Because and it's like I get frustrated, and not in like a serious way, because it's a TV show and it's fine, and I recognize
Hmm.
that, but like there are times when I'm like, oh, there is something going on with me. Either I'm not sleeping well or whatever, because
Yes.
I'll get very frustrated. Like, I know that this is something I know very well,
Yes.
and it's not coming to me, and I cannot
Yeah.
I can't make the neurons fire to get it.
I do know that not from Jeopardy, but I know exactly what you're talking about when I'm having conversation and suddenly there's a thing I know. I've known it for a long time. I know it very well. And it's just on the tip of my brain and I can't get it.
Mm-hmm.
I it kind of worries me and it frustrates me.
Yeah.
Like why can't
Yeah, you know that
I
feeling. Yeah.
yeah. It's not a good one. But it is also a great feeling when it's like you're talking, or I've found this sometimes. I'll be talking away and then I say like, how do I even know that?
Right.
But I do. I'm right. Like that is it.
Well, and that's the other fun part of watching Jeopardy is like occasionally I'll be like, I don't know. And it's very, even though some of it's hard and there's stuff that not everybody can know, it's sort of middlebrow in a sense. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's not like, they're not asking incredibly specific, incredibly highbrow questions. It's fairly middlebrow in terms of the level. So, I find I'll surprise myself knowing a lot of stuff like just from the clue, like sort of guessing at like the other night there was a question about a Firth. And the only Firth I know is the Firth the Fourth. So I shouted out Firth the Fourth because that's the only Firth I know. And it turns out that's the only Firth anybody knows. Anybody who knows any Firths knows that Firth. So that was the answer. And it had nothing to do with, having specific knowledge of the question. Um, so it is interesting the stuff you realize
Right.
that you did know. I get a lot of religion questions, which is
Wow.
interesting. I don't know what that means. I wouldn't think I would. It makes me we'll joke Mike and I will joke about like me being sort of embarrassed about it, but then I also think like, oh, I feel like I'm not entirely wrong when I think like the super obnoxious Christian nationalist politicians who are screaming about the Bible, um it's maybe I'm not wrong when I think like
Yeah.
I actually probably know a little bit more about like religion in the Bible than they do. Maybe I'm
I
not
would
wrong
think
when I
so.
think that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wonder how I do on those because I took a lot of religious studies when I was in college.
Mm-hmm.
So I do wonder with that. I might do all
Well,
right.
a lot of it, as much as I can get rather down on modern American Christian stuff, with
Mm-hmm.
with all due respect to my many good Christian friends, um, there there's a lot of history. There are a lot of it is like, oh, I know this story. Like this is a good story.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it comes from there. Like I have that, I just have that sense of like, oh, I know this because this is a good story. I don't, I don't need to go out and beat someone over the head with it
Right.
because I read this story. But, um, it's interesting that I think there are people who would bandy that about who don't even know the stories.
Oh, absolutely.
So, anyway, speaking of that, you know what?
Absolutely.
Let me make a quick segue, and I know you have stuff to talk about, and this has been all about me and Jeopardy. But
I love it.
let's, I want to say, I just want to throw this out real quick. We we have talked about. I understand everyone's frustrations with the American electoral system, with our voting system, with our politicians, with our political parties. I get it all, but want to remind everyone that there is a significant election coming up in November. Again, I know people are frustrated. It will not solve everything, but there's really important stuff on the line. And early voting is starting in a lot of places, so you can check out vote.org, or you might have a local website that you could go to that would give you more specific information. But vote.org is a place that will give you sort of general information about um, you know the circumstances of, depending on where you are registering to vote, that timings on that are all different, but it's all coming up fast. It's all
Mm-hmm.
coming up very fast. It's coming up next month, as a matter of fact. So um I think on the aggregate, individual elections might not be all that close, but control of our government is super close. And I know people don't love everything and are frustrated with an awful lot of stuff, but there's, on a lot of issues, particularly reproductive rights, um, we're sort of we're sort of there are sort of two ways things can go. One is codifying reproductive rights in a way that restores a lot of reproductive rights that have been lost. Not everything, but restores an awful lot of reproductive rights that have been lost on a national level versus another party, I won't say their name, who is looking to codify the loss of those rights and
Yeah.
further. And we've seen the loss of the reproductive rights from the overturning of Roe versus Wade is in and of itself, it's bad enough. But we've also
Yeah.
seen already horrific scenarios that go beyond even that, where, you know, people are not able to get cancer treatments because, oh my gosh, what if you got pregnant?
Mhm.
We've seen very young children who have been, who have been in, who are facing dangerous pregnancies, who are being
Yep.
forced to carry those through.
Yeah.
Again, the normal circumstance of a any regular person with a uterus who does not want to carry a child and not having a choice in that, that is bad enough. 100%.
Yes.
So, sometimes we fixate on the extreme scenarios, but there are also, in addition to the bad enough, the extreme scenarios are also happening fast and furious.
There are, and sometimes you need to go to the extreme scenarios because people won't care
Right.
when it's mentioned like, "Oh, there is this woman who didn't want to have another kid because she already had a lot of kids and couldn't support another kid. And she wanted to get abortion care." And people might say, like, "Well, she should have been more careful. She deserves it." You know,
Hmm.
all of that stuff that isn't right, but is, people would say that. But then
Yeah.
when you bring up the 11-year-old rape victim who is being forced to carry a pregnancy, you just have to go to that extreme because maybe you can touch some tiny little bit of humanity
Right.
in the person who doesn't care about the 28-year-old woman who simply doesn't want a baby. Like maybe they would care about the 11-year-old rape victim.
Yeah.
And
Well,
right
and
now, we're finding that a lot of people actually don't care about the 11-year-old rape victim who's
oh,
being forced to
absolutely.
carry a pregnancy. Um,
Absolutely. And that's and
which is that's our nation,
I guess I will
America.
say that, you know, when it comes down to it, I guess giving a little bit of credit, I think probably most people do care about that 11-year-old rape victim. Do they care enough to actually do something about it? And here's a chance to actually do something about it. So, you know, if I thought, I mean, I guess I'm for democracy. So if I thought that most people didn't care about that 11-year-old rape victim, maybe I'd be a little quieter about going out to vote. I
Well,
mean, I don't know. But I honestly believe that if people actually did something, if people actually do the bare minimum, there are things to be done for that 11-year-old rape victim. And again, it's not going to be perfect for a long time, as we've talked about, but every life, every person that has a choice that now doesn't have a choice, every single individual in that scenario who can have a choice
mhm.
is a win as far as I'm concerned. And if it's not universal, if it's not everybody, if it's not where it should be, it's not going to be. And that's terrible. But I guess the best we can do right now is the best we can do right now.
Yep,
So,
and it's
and again,
definitely worth it to vote. And as we've always said on this program, even if your vote cancels out our votes, which
right.
again, why are you listening to the Sound of Tomorrow? But because we must be so annoying if your vote's going to
Super
cancel
annoying.
ours
Oh my
out.
God. Even if you agree with us,
Even
we
if
must
you
be
agree with
annoying.
us, we're very annoying.
Yeah.
It's part of our charm. But really, I encourage everybody who can vote to go out and vote.
Well, and the other big issue too is Republicans are still running on this. And again, you know, it's not about parties, but it is. I mean, it is certainly at the moment. I mean, there are some very clear lines on these things. I'm not someone who would ever say like, oh, Democrats are always good and Republicans are always bad, but there are some very clear lines on these things. So the Republican Party is running very strongly on this idea of, they're sort of mixed on the reproductive rights stuff because even though they have their extreme plans there,
Mm-hmm.
They're iffy about how much they want to talk about it because they know those extreme plans have very mixed to unpopular support.
Mhm.
But the big issue that they are running on that is popular is this whole what they call, and I just happened to see a like a focus clips of a focus group that like Fox News was doing, quote unquote focus group, about parental rights, which is this idea that children should not have to learn about Black history, children should not have to learn that gay people exist, etc. So, and parental rights, of course, in this scenario means, you know,
Yeah.
if you're you're right to have your children learn about true things, if that's your goal, you're out of luck. If that's the right you want, forget it.
Yes. Yeah.
But
Yep.
if
I
you're
mean,
someone who wants to remove those things from the curriculum, yay, here we go.
which is so interesting.
Hmm.
And even the spin on it, parental rights. It's like one of those 1 million moms things.
Yeah.
Because who doesn't like a million moms? Who doesn't
Right.
like parental rights? Shouldn't parents have rights?
Sound
And then you
what?
look into it like, oh, rights to take education out of schools.
Yeah.
Wow.
And tied in with that is a lot of the Marjorie Taylor Greene was just at a debate the other night, screaming about the genital mutilation, and they're cutting off all the all of this scaremongering about trans kids. So that's tied in with that. So there's a lot on the reproductive rights things is sort of the most immediate issue in my mind right now, but it's not the only issue. And there's still stuff like climate
Right.
change and things that are going to kill us in a slightly longer, you know, things that'll take us 10 years to wipe us all out as opposed to, end us in a year or two. But,
Yeah, along
you
those
know,
lines with the scaremongering, do you want to hear a little anecdote
let's
that I
do it.
found interesting? So I was at the local grocery store, Tops, where I enjoy shopping.
Right.
They do not enjoy mopping. And even though I consider myself a curmudgeonly hermit,
Right.
uh, who's very antisocial, somehow or another, I often end up chatting with people.
Hmm.
So the checkout person was very meticulous with packing everyone's groceries, so it was taking quite a while. And I struck up conversation with the couple behind me. And they were so nice. And like, for some reason, we got right into politics and social issues, and we agreed completely. Like, we don't need a Chick-fil-A, we don't shop at Hobby Lobby, all that stuff.
Wow. Look
And
at
so
you.
then, but then get this. So the woman was talking about her kids and grandkids. And so I mentioned, oh, me, I have a 16-year-old son. He's a cat. She, then she said, you know, I just don't get it. These kids that say they're cats.
Oh no.
And she was like, the litter box is in schools. And I was like, oh, I don't think that's happening. And I'm sorry, I was joking. Like my son is a cat. Like he's actually like I,
Oh
I have a cat. He's
no.
16, and I like to pretend he's my human son. Like, but he's a cat. But I found it so interesting that someone who, because I do live in a bit of an echo chamber.
Yeah.
I look at the news outside, but if I'm going to be hanging out during social time with people, I don't want to be arguing the whole time.
Yeah.
Um, so I found it so interesting that someone who, had all of these different, like, I guess, kind of hot topic social issues in common with me didn't say it in like an angry way, but kind of was just perplexed and resigned
That's
about.
interesting.
And I did say, like, I don't think that's happening. But
Y-
it's so interesting how insidious it is that
Yeah.
even like this nice couple at the store, like they heard this somewhere and apparently just went like, wow, what is the world coming to?
Well, and I was just seeing more. I know we've seen that. We might have even talked about that litter box in the schools thing, which I think as best as I can tell started as like a joke like you made about your cat. Um but then yeah, it's been repeated, and again, just It is fascinating because it's fascinating. It's the insidiousness of you're right because it's just a thing that people say.
Yeah.
And I mean, it doesn't I mean, for me there's always, I think it's sort of that what's the world coming to mentality where like anything is possible. I mean, for me it's like does it pass the smell test that a significant number of schools are installing litter boxes? Like does it even pass the smell test that that's happening? Like do you know like do you know any kids in the school where they've installed litter boxes because the kids identify as
Yeah.
cats? I mean, does it even like remotely pass the smell test? But there we are. I mean, it's
Yeah, because people don't sometimes, and I know with me, sometimes I also don't question things, or maybe I realize later I should question them. And for me, sometimes the conclusion is like, that sounds highly improbable.
yeah.
Because there are a lot
Yeah.
of things like I've not been to every school in the United States. So I can't say with certainty there's not one single school that doesn't have like a litter pan in the bathroom. Still, even that, unless there's an actual cat at the
But again,
school.
this is where you get so much this is where wacky people win though because
Right.
suddenly it's like, "Oh, but you
Oh,
can't
well, see,
prove
you
there
can't.
aren't."
Yeah, you can't say that.
You know,
It's like,
you
well,
can't you
I
know,
can't go to every school in the United States and check out all the restrooms.
right. Right. So instead, so instead, it's the old science thing about extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. So you're the
Right.
one claiming that there's a litter box in every school in America for the kids that identify as cats,
Right. It's like, okay, go around,
but
get some
you can't
pictures
show
for
me
me.
a single picture or give me or name a single school or a single
Right.
student in the entire United States of
Hmm.
America that is using one of these cat boxes.
I've never
But I
heard
have to
about it.
prove. I have to go to every school in America and
Right.
prove that this is not the case.
Yeah, it's definitely strange. I do know enough people who work in schools, and even just that, like, I've not heard from a single one of them about the litter pans being installed in the restrooms.
Well, and I was seeing it was sort of interesting seeing this Fox News little piece with,
Yeah.
on it was sort of fascinating because there's also this idea that, what I know of, I know teachers. I have not worked in a school in a long time, but I have worked in schools in the past. Um, so I don't have a perfect in there, but I have connections. And what I know of schools is like normal people work there. Like, and by normal I mean sort of average Americans of varying political stripes, like
Yes.
you would find in pretty much any job, from teachers to the
Yeah, any
teachers I
job.
know. I will say the teachers I know, not one of them is an ultra liberal. Of the teachers I know, well, that's not true. One is maybe at least as liberal as I am. All the rest of them are um probably far more conservative than I am. And that's just anecdotal. But again, my experience working in schools is like you get a cross section.
Hmm.
Um but from this sort of Fox News piece, I was getting the impression, and again, you see this on social media, that these schools are this like insular, insulated, secret. They're all
Yeah.
like these weird secret societies where like once that door closes in the morning and the
Yeah.
bell goes off, it is nothing but like it is nothing but people who've been up all night doing their CRT classes, who just
Yeah.
want nothing more to indoctrinate your children into being transgender and learning about. I mean, it's just, and it's again, they talk about this stuff, and it's like, do you not know any teachers? Do you not know anyone who
Right.
works in the school? Do you not know any administrators? I mean, because
Oh,
it's
I do think a lot of the people who are so worked up about parental rights are
mhm.
not even parents themselves,
Oh,
or
sure,
if they are parents, their children are grown long out of school.
yeah,
The ship has sailed for their exercising parental rights. I think a lot of people who are up in arms about all kinds of things, the CRT, the trans kids at school, the litter pans in school bathrooms, I
hmm
don't think they've been in a school in 20 years.
yeah. I mean, it's and it's similar to what we saw with nurses, where suddenly nurses became villains for a while because they're trying to, they're passing along the COVID hoax. They're passing along. They want to give you a shot. They want to give you a vaccine, and it's like, I know some nurses. They're just sort of average people. I mean, they're
Yeah,
not. they're not. They're not
they're not
getting paid by some.
supervillains.
They're not supervillains getting paid by some. They're not all living in mansions because of all the government money they're getting to pass along this insidious. To carry along this evil plot. They're just sort of normal people like you. They're just sort of average Americans. And so it's again the fear mongering of we here in our little club are safe because we know the truth,
Yeah,
but everybody, I mean, I don't
it's
get it.
really
And
strange. I was talking just recently about the the fear mongering about the location tracker that was contained in the COVID vaccine.
mm-hmm,
And that was one where we're just saying, like, is the technology even there for like that kind of nanotech? Pretty sure not.
right,
And then everybody carries a tracker with them everywhere they go anyway.
right,
Like the government doesn't need to inject them into us. We freak out when we accidentally leave our trackers at home.
yeah. No kidding. I mean, no kidding. Like, oh my, yeah, yeah, absolutely. We freak out because how am I gonna,
Yeah. I mean,
I
when I'm hanging out on the patio, I bring my tracker out with me. I don't leave it in the house and because I need to have it close by.
I this morning I went downstairs because I was going to ride on the elliptical a little bit,
All
because
right.
I'm sort of a workout
You
aholic
are. You're a workout
machine.
guy.
I just do like I don't do more than 6 to 8 hours a day of exercise
I
though.
know. I can
So
tell.
right, I can tell you don't do more than 6 hours. And I forgot my my watch, my
Right.
Apple Watch, where I put in the thing like, oh, I'm getting on the thing now, and I tell it to go.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I had started on the thing and I didn't want to get off. And I was like, oh, this exercise doesn't even count.
Yeah. Because you
I
didn't
had my
log it.
phone. I had one tracker.
Right.
I was upset because I did not have two
I know.
trackers.
I know. I mean, but that's the darn thing. Like the second the scaremongers start saying, well, they're going to start tracking you,
Yeah.
the obvious answer is, oh, no, they started a long time ago.
Yeah.
And it's just so interesting to me when, you know, because when someone's trying to scare you, sometimes you do get that little coil of like, oh, should I be scared?
Mm-hmm.
But then when the answer is just so simple, like, nope,
Well,
not happening.
and some of the stuff too. I mean, the question I always ask myself is like, where's the money in that? When someone tries to, and I'm trying to think of, I can't think of the example of that of just the other day, one of those things that came up, and I think it was something from my dear, blessed sainted mother, oh, who is a big Fox News fan,
Ah,
and it was one of these things. I genuinely cannot remember what it was because I think I blocked it out, but it was one of those things where you're like, what's the profit in that?
yes.
That's this whole conspiracy theory where like, okay, people are spending a lot of money and technology and blah 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 to do this thing, and I don't see where the payoff is.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the question that's the first question I always ask myself when like I start to get sucked in by something like that, by some kind of conspiracy thing. I'm like, hmm, if someone's going to do all this, someone's going to want to get paid,
Yep.
or get some benefit, some tangible benefit other than like they want to do something evil
Yeah.
just because they're bad.
Y- y-
And a lot of people, and they've gotten thousands of people to sign on with them to do something that no one gains from, but it's
right.
bad. So
Yeah.
they're
Does
going to
some
do
kind of
it.
mischief.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is always a good question. The where's the money, or even just a simple why?
Yeah.
Because
Like,
sometimes
why?
I'll be talking to a Trump supporter that I happen to know who happens to be in my life,
Sure.
and they'll have some wild theory. Again, I can't think of a particular one,
Hmm.
but I will say, why?
Yeah.
And it's interesting the weird grasping at straws of an explanation. And well, that doesn't make sense. Why?
Hmm.
Well, why would they do that? It seems improbable. And of course, because there's the I won't give up either. I'm insufferable. They won't give up. And so there's no conclusion reached. It's not like me asking why and asking where the money is. And doesn't that sound like a lot of work? And how are they even going to get this to happen? Because it doesn't sound like the steps make sense.
Right.
I'm still not going to convince the Trump supporter in my life that the thing they think is happening isn't happening.
Yeah.
But at least, I don't know, at least I didn't just buy into it myself, I suppose. Best I can
Yeah.
hope for.
Yeah. You know what? At this point, since we're running low
I
on
know we
time, since
didn't
we
get
used
to
all our stuff,
barely any of our topics. That's all
Heather, there's
right.
there's one topic that I think we need to get to,
I hope so.
and this is very important.
Ooh,
I know you feel strongly about this. I feel strongly about this, and I feel like this is a good note to end on.
all right.
Because Heather,
Yes.
there's voter fraud in the air
Oh.
at Fat Bear Week. Yes, yes, Heather.
Bead
Yes. So
nose.
we of course know about Fat Bear Week. That is the
Of course we do. We talk about it most every year.
absolutely. So the Fat Bear Week tournaments held annually, to where people get to vote on the cutest, fattest bear.
Yeah.
Basically, essentially, that's what it comes down to. Um, you can and they have them on live cams. They have the bears, catching salmon and doing things that bear do, and you can just decide on. And it's subjective, You don't, fat in this scenario sort of means cute. You can just
Yeah.
vote for the fewest fattest bear. But this year, Candace Rush, who runs Fat Bear Week, informs us that Fat Bear Week was hit by voter fraud.
Yes.
Yes.
I did hear about this. I did. And I was
Yes.
shocked. Shocked.
Yes, she says. So we first became suspicious about the spam voting when 435 Holly, who was a front runner this year, came back from being who was not a front runner this year, came back from being down 6,000 votes in a matter of a couple hours. While not unheard of, it is very uncommon for a bear to come back late in the day like that. 435 Holly. We ended up finding just over 9,000 spam votes. Brought to our attention by several of the moderators, it appears as if the spamming stopped once 435 Holly took a lead. So they discovered this by downloading all the votes, and then once they actually started digging into the IP addresses, finding that several IP addresses had voted several thousand times apiece.
Mm-hmm.
So, so this is from an article at slate.com by
Yes.
Nirajana Rajalakshmi. I apologize. I probably butchered that. Called How Fat Bear Week Will Recover from Voter Fraud. And the author says, why would someone cast spam votes for a tournament like this? And Candace Rush says, I don't know. We've been contemplating. I'm actually a little surprised. We've been doing this for 8 years, and this is the first time we've gotten a spam vote because it's very
Mm-hmm.
common in any sort of online voting like this. Candace Rush says, always been expecting a little something like this, but it finally happened. So they are planning to initiate a CAPTCHA system and some other things for next year to make sure that Fat Bear Week voting is safe and secure.
Now, is this the article that had one of them I read about this had some really funny quote about the bear that like the bear that wasn't winning, like didn't demand a recount nor cared about the outcome of the election because she is in fact a bear.
Yeah. No, I don't think so, but
It was
that's
pretty funny, like
yeah,
just pointing out because I really like this competition because we get to look at the bears and everything, but it's my understanding that these are just wild bears.
right.
And it's important that they get fat because they're coming up on hibernation. So, they've got to get great big so that they can go to sleep
Yeah,
and be warm and nourished and stuff. But I do like that it's a way for us to interact via camera with these wild animals that would,
absolutely.
I don't know, probably kill us. Um,
Well, and not necessarily. That's a stereotype about bears, only if they're very hungry.
well,
But
these ones,
true.
yeah,
747 was the winner this year, by the way. 747 also was a winner in 2020. So, Bead Nose we haven't heard from since 2018. So I don't know how Bead
yeah.
Nose is doing, but
I do wonder. There's been speculation about bead nose and
mm,
where bead nose might have gone, but the speculation often includes just Speednose moved on to a different place where bears like to live,
And
not
that
to a
is
farm in upstate New York.
right, and that is entirely possible. So, Fat Bear Week is usually early October. So
Yeah,
you've missed it for this year if you were planning on voting, but you can certainly get out and vote. And it's a fun. I don't know. I like bears, and not in a. I don't want to. I don't want to like hang out with a bear because I feel like you say,
yeah, they're
they probably wouldn't
dangerous.
eat me, but they might.
Yeah,
So I don't want to mess with that. But I like them, and watching them on webcams is perfectly fine.
it's fun, and you see the pictures of them. They're really cute.
Yeah. So support our bears.
Yeah,
And as a as a pudgy hairy gay man, I say support our bears.
absolutely. All kinds of
Any
bears.
kind of bear.
They're
Any
all
kind of bear.
very cute. I've got to say, all types of bears.
Sure. I'm running next year. I'm gonna slap some salmon out of the water.
Yeah,
So
I've been slapping salmon since 1942.
that's
That's what it
disgusting.
says
Heather.
on my social media profile.
That's that's not for this venue. But you know what? That will have to end because we've just been canceled. But we will be back next week. We will
And I
love.
just want to say thanks for bearing with us. Now, that definitely got us canceled.
Ooh, bye everybody.
Got to get our
Bye.
bearings.
Bye forever.
I can't bear it any longer.
Neither can I, Heather. Neither can I.
Hey, Ross, why don't you smile more?
I smile all the time. What are you talking about?
You just never smile in selfies or in pictures or anything.
Leave the world proof of crow's feet? Oh my god, what kind of maniac are you? You can't smile in a picture over the age of 40. That is ridiculous.
You're not over the age of 40, so smile, buddy. I want to see those pearly whites.
Well, when I get to over the age of 40, I don't want to have any crow's feet.
Pearly whites. Show them off.
I'll just do it with my mouth.
Smize. I want to see it.
Like, is a visual for anybody. We got to go. Bye.